What is going on, everybody? My name is Gianni, and today we're talking about Sword of the Sea. In 2012, I played what would become one of the most well-regarded indie darlings of all time, Journey, developed by that game company. At 21, Journey was transformative in the way I viewed games as a medium, allowing me to see far beyond experience points and boss battles and high scores. Instead, it was a meditation on life and death and all the people we encounter in between. It was a title that's resonated with me to this day, well into my 30s, and now having since played many games that it's inspired, I can confidently bet it'll be placed among the pantheon of greats. Now in 2013, several devs from that game company went on to found their own studio, Squid, and took a huge chunk of that same Journey DNA to craft Abzu, the Pathless, and now Sword of the Sea. And while it doesn't necessarily hit the same highs as its biggest inspiration, it comes really damn close with jaw-dropping visuals, fluid and fun movement, and an absolutely gorgeous soundtrack. Like many of Squid and that game company's titles, Sword of the Sea is very much about the player's interpretation of its story, as well as how much or how little they interact with it. While you get a completely speechless narrative throughout its 3.5-hour runtime told with music and expressions as opposed to spoken word, the majority of the game's definitive lore is left entirely within optional collectibles in the massive overworld. What we do know is that you take on the role of the Wraith, a humanoid who's awakened to restore the sea back to a desolate world of sand and dust. And to do so, you're going to traverse the post-apocalyptic landscape with your hoverboard-like blade. And that's it. That's the setup. Bring the water back to the desert. Now, does the premise stay that simple? No, obviously not. In fact, it goes to some absolutely awe-inspiring places, and in quite a few instances, I couldn't control myself from grinning ear to ear. But Sword of the Sea is a very specific example of what you put in, you get out. Peeking into every nook and cranny and uncovering even the smallest morsels of context felt monumental, because for every 2 questions came 1 answer. It was this constant drip feed of giving you just what you needed to know while still maintaining a sense of mystery and wonder. By the time I rolled credits on the epic grand finale, I had just enough idea of what took place while still keeping my curiosity about what Giant Squid wasn't telling us. Now, crossing the landscapes in Sword of the Sea is what truly sets it apart from its predecessors. The game is just as much Activision Extreme Sports as it is spiritual follow-up to Journey. During your playthrough, you'll surf and glide over dozens of different environments with some of the most buttery smooth traversal I've played in a game in as long as I can remember. It's kind of hard to explain unless you have your hands on the sticks, but it strikes this perfect balance of player control and weightless floating that adds to the whimsy of the world. So if you want the Wraith to stop, they'll stop on a dime, but bouncing along airborne jellyfish feels like juggling a balloon. Add to that the fact you'll come across a few mandatory and optional movesets for the Wraith that make movement even more exciting. Optional upgrades, while not necessary for progression, just give you that extra agency to add a little bit of sauce to your surfing sessions. It's this freeing sense of movement that lent a lot to the enjoyment I had with my playthrough, so if the story or visuals aren't enough to sway you into making the purchase, the relaxing calm of cruising from sand to water, water to snow, and snow back to sand will be more than sufficient. Now that being said, we do have to speak about these visuals because, good God, watching a sun-kissed desert turn from dust to vibrant ocean in a matter of seconds, only to open new exploration options or new collectibles, is truly an experience. I don't want to spoil some of the specifics, but there is all manner of landscapes, weather patterns, and skyboxes to admire by the time you finish the game. Watching water behave like sand, or sand behave like water, or fish float through the air like birds, or dolphins dive into the earth like it's the sea, all kept me excited for every new area I encountered. It's a testament to Giant Squid's attention to flipping how you imagine things are supposed to work into something completely the opposite, but still making it make sense. And because the world is so massive and open, you have plenty of room to just coast from point A to B, soaking in all the sights. But this did present one of my few gripes with Sword of the Sea, and that's its lack of an actual map. The game's expansive dunes and complex canyons get so big, particularly in its opening hour, that there were a handful of times where I got completely turned around looking for collectibles. And while the backtracking isn't the end of the world, it was just the aimlessness of retracing my steps that made me miss a simple map feature that much more. In a game as short as this, it felt like a glaring omission. I also found that as varied as the environments are and as uniform as the general open world structure of the game is, there's a chapter right before the final act that I feel brings Sword of the Sea's momentum to a screeching halt. It's filled with great story moments, but the gameplay instantly transitions to this laser-focused platforming puzzle section, and it just didn't work for me. It left the last 30 minutes of my playthrough feeling like a slingshot before hitting me with one of the sickest final sequences I've experienced in years. That being said, while the gameplay in that particular section wasn't my favorite, it's still absolutely spectacular to look at and thankfully doesn't overstay its welcome. Soundtracking the stunning backdrops and high-octane movement is a top-tier score from series mainstay and legendary game composer Austin Wintory. Wintory has clearly earned his reputation as a master in his craft, and his work here is no different. From subtle backing tracks to triumphant orchestra sections and full choruses, Wintory's ability to convey emotion in a completely speechless project had me fully in my feels by the time I finished. Again, no spoilers here, but there are several standout moments where the musical accompaniment sets the tone so perfectly that I had to take a moment to just reflect. Sword of the Sea is a masterclass in dropping you into a world with rich lore and a dense history and letting your imagination fill in the gaps. While I do think mileage will vary if you want something that points out more specifics and deals less in vague context, one thing I can say for certain is that everybody should play this game just to experience its breathtaking environments and therapeutic gameplay. Giant Squid clearly knows how to create an experience that isn't just vibes over substance, and I'm excited to see what they cook up next. What about you? What did you think of Sword of the Sea? I'd love to know in the comments below. And remember, you can find me here on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Threads, anywhere you're at, I'm there too. So be sure to give me a follow or sub to keep up with everything I'm working on, and we'll see you on the next one.